Dinner Theater. She was the director, producer of the shows, and cast me. And I've known her for many years. And she's done so much great work with her documentary, Code 9, Officer Needs Assistance. And here is her take about giving up.
One of the things that I remember as a child that inspired me was watching the Oscars. And I'd watch the Oscars and I'd listen to these these stars getting their acceptance speeches and talking about never giving up and stay true to what you believe and never give up. And I would cry, hysterically crying, because I believed in what they said so much. There was something, even in the darkest times of my life, that I believed that there was something that I can work towards in my creative work. But in the dark times, I said, that's such baloney. That's such baloney. It's never going to happen. I'm working my ass off. I'm doing everything that I'm trying to do. But like I said before, if you're working from a place of true passion and you're doing it for something greater than yourself, then just keep going. Just keep writing. Keep going. Don't stop. I've accomplished a lot more than I ever thought that I ever could. And I know my work has impacted a lot of people, including my family and other people. And I don't know if I could ask for anything more than that.
Thank you for that, Debbie. All right, let's move on to Billy Lamont. He's a poet based in New York. I met him when I worked for Cablevision. He was one of my managers. But he's also a poet, doing this for decades, keeping it going. And here's what Billy has to say about giving up.
You can't do it. It's like, it's needed. Like every single person's voice is needed so much. And that soulfulness in our world today, think about it, we're getting bombarded by propaganda and media and information overload, and just a human, real, soulful voice in that is just huge. You know, it's like, you know, you see the movie It's a Wonderful Life during Christmas. You had a lot of hard times, but you think about like the 50 people in life. It doesn't have to be with the TV and all this. It's just, your voice is so necessary. And then if it's a loving voice, think of how that reforms ourself and reforms our world. But a lot of times it becomes something a lot bigger than we think. A simple act of kindness, to me, it becomes like a lot of the best moments of my life so far. And so if you're someone that's thinking of giving up, don't do it. Your voice is needed. There's only one you. Your potential is so unique. And then even if it's just in reforming yourself or your family, now you, instead of being alienated, that's coming back to the community. So it's like I always tell the kids, our words, if nothing else, remember, our words can create or destroy. We can build someone up or tear them down. So like in junior high, I grew 3 inches. I had some pimples. I was on the football team, and it was like, and people are making fun, and but I'm like, but like, what about when you use, or girls will make fun of other girls' clothes or whatever, and sometimes it's a male bonding thing, but sometimes it's very cruel. But there are times in life, maybe it's like a teacher spirit, where I've seen something in someone. You're a good listener. Maybe you could be like a counselor, or like a friend of mine was kind of violent, but you write really well, and all our friends are musicians. So then he was in a heavy metal band, and then he wrote poetry, and it's like sometimes people don't tell them, people might not know they have certain qualities, but it becomes like their whole life work sometimes if you don't always look at the negative and you look at what about all the positive things about that person, and then that grows, and then community, we're all stronger for it,
That saying is billboard worthy. Words can either create or destroy. And I'm not sure what it is about humans that we are so quick to nitpick and put down people and look at that negative side and really blow it up more than look for anything positive and try and build that up. I'm not sure where that comes from. Maybe that's a question for another podcast. But thank you for that, Billy. Now let's hear from one of my youngest guests who has accomplished so much. She runs Broadway Everyday Star Theater, and I met her at the networking event in Tampa. This is Katie Welch, and she gives the lowdown on giving up.
I did a couple of times, but the one thing I kept on saying to myself, theater is my passion. No matter how many times people have cut me down, saying that I'm not good enough, saying that Broadway Everyday Star Theater will not launch, I'm not giving up. There are all those times that there might be some shows that I feel like I don't want to be in this cast anymore because they were like rude or something. I'm like my mom says, out of everyone in my family, I am the one who never quits, no matter what the challenge is. I had so many roadblocks in my life, but I always go over them.
And closely related to giving up is doubt. We doubt we're not good enough. We doubt we're not going to make it because that person is better than me. I've fallen victim to that too, and it's just artists struggle with that. I understand it, as does Lori Ann Davis, and here's what she has to say about why we doubt ourselves.
Well, I think it's a combination of, and I think about this all the time, not feeling good enough, not thinking you're enough, and fear. And the interesting thing is acting, that feeling is what you want to put into it, not being good enough. You just being you is enough. And I always say to my students when they first meet them, I tell them that they're special, and I say, how do I know that? They're like, yeah, how do you know that? I'm like, because there's only one you. And we want you. And acting is being human. Acting is being messy. It's not being tied up in this neat little box with a bow on it. So we go out and we try to, I'm even doing some of that right now. And I know you for the longest time, but we still think we have to present ourselves in a certain way. And that's not acting. Acting is messy. It's being human. It's the dark side of you, the concerned side of you, the happy side of you, the perverted side of you, the murderous side of you. It's exploring all of that. I remember being handed a Spoon River, and this woman murdered 8 people, and I'm saying to my acting teacher, I just played Anne Frank. I can't be a murderer. And then researching it, breaking it down, I thought, oh yeah, I have that side of me too. If somebody came in and tried to hurt somebody I loved, or my family, or my students, you'd bet you'd see a side of me you've never seen before. And that's exploring you. We all have, different sides, and we're all human. But I think we hold back on that because we want to impress people. And it's weird because we're impressing another person who's just as afraid as we are. Not everyone's going to like us. This is another hard thing to learn. And I think, I'm a nice person. I'm kind. I'm loving. I'm caring. And I help people. Not even trying. It's just a natural thing that I do. But sometimes people,
Yeah. You're going to have your haters. You're going to have your haters.
But going back to that, it's just, again, I think it's a low self-esteem as creative people. We want to be loved, and we confuse it. We confuse it with hiding it or making it neat. No, just let it go. Be your crazy ass self and let it go. Just and the fear. I mean, sometimes we hold on to the fear, and it reeks off of us.
Yes.
And what are we afraid of? Afraid of being rejected? Yeah, being rejected stinks, but that's what acting is. The business side of it, anyway.
Yes.
And who cares? So they didn't like us. Move on. Not easier said than done,
Of course.
Because it's a lifelong process. But I think for me, acting gives me the freedom to just release my emotions and just be all that stuff that's like kind of sitting in there that I can't bring out every day, even though I tend to. I can't control myself. But you see people looking at you weird in the store, or what, did you just say that out loud? And maybe they'll think it's a disease, but it's not. It's just being yourself and being human. I've been saying that a lot to my students lately. Just be human. And they're like, what? Just be human. Hold hands, connect with each other. I do that a lot in my classes. I ask my students to hold hands or just look at each other. We just stand in a circle and look at each other, and it freaks them out because it's not something you would naturally do. But I thought if you stopped every day, looked someone in the eye and held their hands, what a connection we would have. And that's acting, being connected to ourselves, being connected to everything around us, every object, everything, every person. As Sanford Meisner says, there's no such thing as nothing. So there's always something.
I get it. I totally get it. Well, next up is Rodini Almanasi. He is one of the people I've known the longest. I met him in 9th grade when I went to East Junior High School in Brentwood, New York. And we were just fellow comrades in arms with our love for the comic books and art. And Rodini runs his own business, Maximum Graphics. He's a graphic artist. Designed my Artist Matters business cards. Thank you, Rodini. And he has one heck of a tale about never doubting that he would succeed. Because even when he was born into this world, there was a struggle. So, take a listen to this.
Yeah, I knew. I just knew. I was always a hustler, so I knew it was in me to do what I had to do. I have like an innate survival instinct. So my mother always said that God has a special plan for me. So that's another story in itself. When I was born, I was stillborn. And yeah, I can make a book about this.
Wow, that's a big detail.
Yeah, I was born dead. And when they took me out, when they took me to bring me to the morgue, the nurse that was bringing me to the morgue ran into my father. She was a friend of my father. My father was just running into the hospital. And when he walked in, he was like, "Is he all right?" And she was like, "Yeah, I just got to bring him to the incubator," because she didn't have the heart to tell him that I was dead. So she brought me to the incubator and turned it all the way up. And when she turned up the incubator, she turned around and she was going to talk to my father. And then my father's like, "Look, he's kicking. And then she turned around. She turned it up too high. And I guess it revived me. She then turned it down, called the doctor and said, Doc, he's alive." So from that point on, my mother always said, God has a special mission for you. So, you're God's child. You have a special mission in life. So I guess that's why I always felt like I can do anything. So I always felt, and comics and art, I think had a big influence in me because you as an artist yourself, you know that in your mind, you think outside the box, and I think, all the time I think of myself as a hero, like a superhero, and I can do anything. So I felt there was nothing that I couldn't do. So that's why, back to your question, did I ever doubt myself? No, I never doubted myself, because I felt like as long as I can breathe and as long as I can walk and do what I can do, and be able to do my God-given gift, then I can achieve anything.
I couldn't believe that when he told me. I had no idea that he was dead when he was born. And he came back. That is a miracle. He was really meant to be in this world. Well, next up we have James T. Ellison, an illustrator hailing from Kentucky who has mixed connective tissue disease. Something that there's no cure for, but he's found a way to deal with it, even through his art. And he was told he was going to be very limited in what he can do. Well, his grisly attitude and way of life wasn't hearing any of that. And here's what he goes into about them telling him he can't jog or do any activities anymore, and his response.
And they did a bunch of blood work. The rheumatologist called for blood work, and that's when they found out I had mixed connective tissue disease. And I had no idea what that meant, and he's explaining all this stuff to me. And I had every single doctor, from the ER to the cardiologist and my rheumatologist, they all told me countless times that I was lucky to be alive.